When we think of the Gilded Age, we tend to picture these huge fortunes, right? Robber barons and glittering parties. But if you peel back that golden layer, you'll find it was actually an era of deep, deep anxiety. It was a time when new money, new ideas about gender, and brand new technologies were all clashing with old traditions, and it completely reshaped America. So let's dive into this wild period of conflict and see how it basically created the modern world we're living in right now. So here's a question for you, a question that absolutely haunted the Gilded Age. Can money made in, let's say, a less than ethical way ever truly be clean? This wasn't just some philosophical debate people had over dinner. Oh no, it exploded into a massive national scandal over one very large and very public donation. Okay, so picture this. The year is 1905. Standard Oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller, who was the richest and maybe the most hated man in America, donates $100,000 to a missionary board. Now, in today's money, that's about $2.5 million. It was supposed to be this grand gesture of goodwill, right? But boy, did it set off a firestorm. And that was the reaction from a clergyman named Washington Gladden. He was furious. He got up and publicly just blasted Rockefeller, saying his business practices were totally immoral and that taking his cash would be a moral stain. And just like that, the tainted money debate was on, forcing Americans everywhere to really grapple with the dark side of all this new wealth. This whole thing was way, way bigger than just one donation. It was like a battle for the country's soul. I mean, you have this world that's being completely transformed by industry and science, and the old moral compass, the church, was suddenly up against the brutal new logic of capitalism. So this debate pretty much broke down into two opposing views. On one side, you had critics like Washington Gladden. They saw these incredible fortunes as being built by wrecking people's lives and robbing the poor. But on the other side, you had guys like steel magnate Andrew Carnegie, who came up with his Gospel of Wealth. He basically argued that, yeah, wealth is unequal, but the super rich have a moral duty to give it all the way for the public good. It was his solution, a way to sort of wash the money clean through charity. Now, at the exact same time all this drama about money is going down, an equally huge social revolution was starting to brew. Women were beginning to push back hard against the strict Victorian rules that had kept them boxed in for generations. They were demanding new freedoms and a whole new place in society. And this didn't just happen overnight. It was a process, right? Step one was all about the physical. Fashion started to change. Corsets got looser, hemlines went up. This new physical freedom was a really powerful symbol. Then step two was intellectual. More and more women were going to college. And finally, step three, they got political. Women became these incredible activists, fighting for everything from labor rights to social reforms, and of course, for the right to vote. And you know where this fight really played out? In books and stories. Writers like Charlotte Perkins Gilman, in her famous story, The Yellow Wallpaper, just tore into the whole idea that a woman's natural place was in the home. And Kate Chopin's novel, The Awakening, took it even further, talking about female desire and desperation. I mean, these weren't just stories, they were cultural bombshells, directly challenging the whole Victorian social order. So, you can probably guess what happened next. With women pushing for more freedom and the whole nature of work changing from farms to offices, a kind of panic set in among American men. There was this widespread fear that the modern world wasn't just changing the country, it was making men weak. I mean, just listen to this quote from Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. He said men were becoming soft-muscled and paste-complexioned. The fear was that the new ideal of success, a man working behind a desk, was literally draining men of their vitality, their manliness. This anxiety got so real, it actually got a medical name, neurasthenia. Think of it as this catch-all diagnosis for a modern condition of nervousness, depression, and just feeling, emasculated by modern life. The philosopher William James even called it Americanitis, as if it were a uniquely American disease. So what was the cure, the prescription? Something called muscular Christianity. The whole goal was to stiffen men's backbones, to make them tough again, both physically and spiritually. The YMCA started building gyms, and get this, its leaders actually invented basketball and volleyball as ways to build character. This wasn't just about sports, though. It was about connecting this tough, aggressive new idea of masculinity to nationalism and even imperialism. The thinking was, you need strong men to keep America a strong country. All right, so we've got all this anxiety swirling around. About money, about gender, about masculinity, it's a lot.
So how did people cope? Well, for our final section, let's look at how a whole new world of mass entertainment gave people a much-needed escape, and in the process, created a brand new American culture. While all the reformers and thinkers were debating the future of the nation, millions of regular Americans just wanted to be entertained, and they flocked to things like vaudeville shows. Think of it like a live variety show with comedians, singers, jugglers, you name it. It was fun for the whole family, and it was the real start of entertainment for the masses.
But the real revolution, the game changer, was technology, specifically from Thomas Edison. I mean, look at this timeline and see how fast this happened. In 1880, he patents the idea of motion pictures. Just 8 years later, in 1896, his Vitascope projector is creating the first movie theater experiences. And by about 1910, barely a decade after that, you've got the world's first movie stars, like Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. It was an incredible shift.
So you see, these inventions, the phonograph for music and motion pictures for movies, did a lot more than just distract people from their worries. They literally built the foundation of our entire modern culture of celebrity, pop music, and blockbuster entertainment that would completely define the 20th century.
And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? Think about it for a second. Debates over tainted money from controversial billionaires, arguments about changing gender roles and what masculinity means, widespread anxiety over how new technologies are changing us. It all sounds pretty familiar, right? The Gilded Age might be in the history books, but the central anxieties that defined it, well, they're still very much with us today.